I think you just got to keep investing in you until like, oh now I'm making $3,000. Okay, boom, reinvest all that again. But what we do is we start taking it off the table, right?
We save it, we don't invest it.
So I think people just need to get on that cycle of, if you got $1,000, I would like just keep investing in yourself until you got another 1,000.
Okay.
And then invest in yourself, now you got 2,000 invested in, you should start making money faster. At some point, you should start, like, every time you make an investment in yourself, if I put fuel in my car, it's supposed to take me further. Right? So if I invest in myself, then, and look, there's things I bought that I didn't get a return on right away. But I didn't quit investing in a course or a workshop or training or education because it didn't work.
Or your health. Or
I spent 17 years going to school. None of it was any good for me. But it did teach me. It did teach me how to go to school.
Right.
How
to study.
How to go there, how to complete a course. Like I completed college. I'm not proud of that, by the way.
You're not proud you completed it? Why not?
No, because it was it was ridiculous. I should have dropped out. Like I knew it was a bad thing.
What'd you major in?
Majored in accounting. It's a good degree. It's not like just some business degree.
Right. But you should have dropped out of it. Why?
I should 100% because I'd have a 5-year jump on my career. But the problem is I was on drugs. So
actual drugs?
If I wouldn't have been on drugs, I would have quit college. Because I would have had enough confidence in myself. When you're on drugs, you can't have confidence. Because you know you're drugged.
Right.
So everything is second guess. Because my self-esteem was like through the basement. And so I'm like, I need to quit college. But everybody around me is, oh no, you got to finish college. I'm like, what do I know? I'm a drug addict.
And if I drop out, I don't have a degree, no one's going to hire me.
I didn't even worry about any of that because, I didn't worry about that. I just didn't have the confidence to follow my intuition. You can't when you're
on drugs.
When you're not yourself. So what do you do with $1,000, right? I think you just got to keep investing in you until like, now I'm making $3,000. Okay, boom, reinvest all that again. But what we do is we start taking it off the table, right?
We save it, we don't invest it.
So I think people just need to get on that cycle of like, okay, I'm gonna keep repeating this activity. I'm gonna reinvest some money in myself, go to the workshop or whatever. Monday, I gotta be hustling again. Until, okay, now I got $4,000. Okay, now I got $5,000. Now the income's starting to pick up. Income has to pick up. The income should be an indication that whatever you're learning is helping you.
That's interesting.
Until one day you're like, okay, I have more money here than I can actually
invest in myself.
I can't, there's nothing I can go to get rid of this money. You need to get rid of that money though.
All my free time is going to my workshops. I don't have more free time to invest in me. I'm developing skills, I'm working, I'm earning more. Now, what's the next step?
And now it would be, okay, I got to spend money on marketing. I wouldn't go look for an investment right now. I'm going to spend money on marketing now. Now I'm going to spend money on marketing to get me more leads. And I would, big mistake I made in my career was not spending more money on marketing.
Because you turned, 50 when you really started investing in?
I was 51 when we started playing the social media game. And I was probably 55 or 56 when we started spending money on marketing.
Wow.
Yeah.
51 when you started doing social media?
Yeah.
And then
and I should have been spending money. I should have been spending money when I was 25 years old. When I was selling cars, I should have been spending money on ads. But I was scared, man. So
what made you not scared 25 years later, 26 years later, at 51?
I started studying, hey, what do all these successful people have in common? Whether it was the mattress dealer, the car dealer, the furniture dealer, or Elon Musk. They spend money, man. They spend money. They spend a lot of money. And they don't worry about money the way I was worried about it. They used money, They used it. They didn't save it. They didn't hoard money. And the greatest companies on this planet today, the ones that have just some of these companies have lost money for 25 years. Look at Amazon.
Yeah.
Reinvest. 1.7 million employees. When I started, I remember I looked at Ernst Young. I said, I had a buddy that worked at Ernst Young. I said, how many employees you got? He's like, 240,000.
Wow.
And I'm worried about 10 people. What am I thinking? So when I quit studying individuals and started studying people, everything shifted for me. When I quit trying to be when I quit worrying about what Bob was doing or Pete or whoever, and started saying, hey man, what is this big company doing? Because that also relieved me of being competitive with this guy, Pete, and started saying, okay, I'm going to go do what Coca-Cola does. That's when I bought the plane.
Right. Really?
Yeah.
How old were you when you bought the plane?
I was 50, maybe 55, the first one. I bought it because I studied what Coca-Cola was doing. They bought planes. I said, why are they buying planes? Oh, then I learned how they write them off. And then I learned how they trade them every 3 years.
That's crazy.
So notice every 3 years, I'm trading a plane. I'm getting rid of it, replacing it with another one. But what are they using it for? They don't use it for pleasure. They're not using it for Instagram photos. Right. They're using it to go and set up headquarters in other countries.
Wow.
You know, so that's when I wrote, if you're not first, you're last, because when I started studying these companies, I'm like, Coca-Cola's everywhere. You can't go any place and not see Coca-Cola. And I was like this big. I was always thinking about what can I keep? And they were thinking about how many shells can we get on? How many eyeballs can we see? So that's when it all clicked for me, you know, and that goes back to that thing about the financial misinformation, right? It's like, who am I studying? And that's when we started, you know, open up the funds for I went to New York City to go walk in Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan's offices. I wanted to walk in and see what it was like. These are multi-hundred billion dollar companies.
Crazy.
You know? And I walked in, I was like, oh my God, man. It just all hit me in a second. I've been doing everything wrong.
What were they doing different?
They own the building.
They weren't renting the building.
They own the building. Well, they don't care if they rent. They could rent it, but they own the elevators were bigger than the studio.
Oh, right.
One elevator.
It's crazy.
And 60 people got on that elevator and went to the 120th floor. And then there was six of these elevators, people going up and down. Everybody told me, don't take people's money. Do not let investors invest with you. Keep the whole deal for yourself. The second I walked into Goldman Sachs.
Because all they're doing is getting investor money.
That's all they do. Okay? And the difference is, what I do is I could go to Goldman Sachs. I was there. They would give me money. And I'm like, I'm not going to get money from them.
Why not?
I'm going to do what they do.
From individuals.
Exactly. From my friends, from people that follow me, from people that support me, okay? Goldman Sachs will give money to anybody.
Right.
Okay, they don't know how to go to these people. They're not on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok. So I'm going to create a fund where I can tell my audience, hey, Lewis, you can invest with me. I'm going to kick Goldman out of the deal, or JP, or whoever. There's a bunch of these guys, you know. It's not that they're doing a bad thing or anything. I'm not saying they're the devil, but they're close. Okay, because they're not going to call you up and say, "How you doing, man?" You know, without saying, "Hey, you got any money to invest?" It's just not. You know, that's not what they do. Their job is to make money. Period. So anyway, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, these are the richest institutions on the planet. They fund everything that happens. The company BlackRock and Vanguard. These are probably going to be worth $20 trillion each in the next handful of years. They say they'll own 99% of all the assets on planet Earth, not just in America.
How are they able to do that?
Because they scale, right? Because they think big. So they're funding everything. Everything that happens on this planet, from media to pharmaceutical, is going to be funded by those two companies.
Wow.
So it just, when you're studying your rich uncle or the neighbor down the street, the think is only so big. And then when I started studying these other companies, I was like, okay, this is who, if you want to create that kind of legacy wealth and really help a lot of people, because they are in a position to help or hurt a lot of people. That's the scale you got to think at.
Yeah. But it took you really 25 years to get there, to start thinking that way. Is that right? Because you weren't able to see yourself spending money for 25 years. You were just trying to earn more and more and more.
Yeah, because I was just trying to, the grind was such a low level grind.
Let's say you had the right information at 25.
Yeah.
Let's just say you had a rich uncle that did what these people did and you got to witness this.
Yeah.
Do you think that you would have been able to get there faster?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Or do you feel like money only comes to you when you're ready for it?
No.
Like when you're ready to make it and when you're ready to take on the risk or the responsibility?
Sabrina will never make the mistakes I made, okay? Because she won't get in the wrong car. I got in the wrong vehicle. I didn't know. The vehicle I got in when I was 28 years old, I could actually make $100,000 a year doing this. My daughters will never get in that vehicle.
What will they do?
They'll be like, I'm not getting in a $100,000 ride. Right. If it can't bring me, they're going to be like, hey, if this doesn't have $1 billion possibility, they're going to pick this is the wealthy. They put their kids, their kids see things differently. If they're not ruined,
right?
If they're not completely ruined and scathed by having whatever they want, then they'll see opportunities different.
Yeah.
But when you see the possibility, then you're like, I'm not going to get in that car. I'm going to get in a spaceship. So if I was 28 again today, I mean, I would know what industries to pick.
Top 3 industries to pick.
Got hedge funds have to be one of them.
Really?
Advertising and marketing's got to be a space to be in. Mm-hmm. And probably, something to do with healthcare. If I could scale healthcare. If I could scale the organic alternative medicines. So those are 3 massive spaces. Maybe financial too. Maybe the financial world. In the next 30 years, we're probably going to have a disruption of the dollar.
Right.
And the way money's. Maybe we're a cryptocurrency, environment in the future.
Yeah.
So any of that's going to happen. But the reason I would go there is like Jeff Bezos. When I saw the first interview with Jeff, when he was saying he was studying algorithms, I think he was at one of the big firms, selling stocks
before Amazon.
Yeah, before Amazon, and then he saw something came across his desk where there was a spike in internet activity, eyeballs going to the internet. That's when he said, "I'm going to go do Amazon," and he followed traffic. I didn't ever follow traffic. He followed scale. He followed scaling possibilities. And then what did he do? He followed this traffic, the possibility. Then he invested in the possibility. And then he went into debt on the possibility. And then he was willing to not get paid any money. But what did I do? I need money today. I got to have money this week. I need to have a little more money next week. And if I get a little more money after that, I'm going to save it all. And then I'm going to go do that again. And I'm going to feed the bank. And I'm going to keep feeding the bank. I don't even know how much money the bank's made off of me for 25 years. We don't know anybody that works harder than Grant Cardone. And as soon as he gets a bag, he brings it to us. What do? Hey, y'all want to borrow this money? Now repeat that 300 million times.
Wow.
And that's the American people.
What about a family that's thinking, I really feel comfortable having 6 months to a year of savings because I got kids, I got, the rent, I got all the bills.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone who's like, what? I see where you're coming from, but maybe I don't feel that comfortable yet.
Well, then keep, money. If you think money's going to save you, you're just, again, they're stacking information on top of bad information. Okay. Mm-hmm. The money that you have saved in the last 6 months has probably dropped 11%. So the money that you got $100,000. I got to have 6 months of savings. I need, 4,000. My bills are $4,000 or $5,000 a month. I got to have 30 grand in the bank. Got to have 30, but they really have 180. So first of all, I guarantee they have more than 6 months, and they don't even know it because they're living out of terror.
Right.
It's not logic.
Right.
You say it's logic. I need 6 months, but you got 3 times more than you need.
Sure.
Number one. Number two, you've never had an emergency that cost you 30 grand in your lifetime. Very few people ever had that emergency. Everybody hears about it. Oh yeah, my guy got in a bad, this happened, blah, blah, blah.
Car
whatever.
accident or this.
But if you had assets, if you'd been investing in assets, you can always go use those assets for collateral to solve your cancer surgery.
You can get a loan out from the bank if you
100%.
Yeah.
Or if you just took the money that you earned and keep reinvesting in assets that pay you, not assets that you wish one day will pay you, but assets that pay you every month. If you keep investing in that asset class, one day your cash flow will be your emergency account. My emergency account last month paid me $1.6 million. My cash flow, my
crazy.
Free cash flow.
That's crazy.
That's no work involved. That is not 1 second of one day. Okay, and that happens every single month in my place. But that's been because I made a bunch of investments for the last 25 years.
Right.
End of every year, I dump all my cash out every year. I'm like, you need to get as close to zero as you can and replace it with assets that in January, if I dump out in December, January, I want a payment from that. It doesn't have to be a big payment. Just needs to be a drip off that asset.
Something, yeah.
So I'm not going to buy a cup because the cup won't pay me. So in December, I had a bunch of money. Boom. I'm like, make a deal. You were in it, yes, a couple days ago.
Yeah.
You
bought that house.
Take that cash, that garbage that you have. I already had a surplus of money. So if I can't buy 2 of these, I'm not going to buy 1 of them. If I can't write off some portion of it, I'm not going to buy it. If I can't do it out of passive income, I'm not going to touch it.
Interesting.
So those are my criteria for making investments, right? And it needs to cash flow. So I took a bunch of this cash that was sitting here, just deteriorating, not providing me with safety, and took it and put it into this asset. And people are like, you're ridiculous. You paid that much money for that thing. Okay, we'll see, So I buy this thing. This thing will provide rental income. I think this year I'll make $3 million on this deal.
Wow.
In cash flow.
And how much do you have to put down? Or you to buy the whole thing?
Well, I paid cash for this house.
Gotcha.
So, but the reason I did it is not because this is a great deal, but this is a terrible deal.
Keeping the cash.
Keeping the cash is garbage. This Malibu house is probably one of the worst investments I ever made.
Why?
Okay, but I had a bunch of surplus cash. I had already bought in December. We bought almost 2,000 apartments. If I could have got another apartment deal, I'd have bought another apartment deal with a $40 million. But I couldn't.
You couldn't find one.
I couldn't find another deal. Okay, I still had this money left over. End of the year, it's just a thing that I do. End of the year, dump out. Literally, like flush the toilet on your savings. So every day I look at my savings accounts. Okay, it's not because I'm worried about any more money anymore. I know for sure the money's going down in value. Everybody knows that this year. Your money is depreciating, right? It's dropping down in value. What you were told that is 100 grand is not 100 grand. The bank's not even telling you the truth. It's 100 less 11,000.
It's 11% right now?
Could be 34% less. Some people think it's going down 34%.
That's crazy.
But you're going to still see 100 because this is invisible taxing, right? It's inflation.
Wow.
So I know that. I know it's not 100. So when you guys look at your checking, I got 180,000. You're lying to yourself because you're not doing all the math on money. This is why Mike Saylor went and took all that money he had and invested in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yeah. Because
he's done the research. So I would listen to him, and I'm not saying you guys should go buy Bitcoin, but I'm not buying Bitcoin at those levels. Okay, I'm buying assets that can provide me with more cash, with more income. Maybe I should be buying Bitcoin. I don't know. But anyway, so I dumped this out. I dumped this for now. I've been shopping this piece of real estate for 19 months. I've been working this deal for 19 months. Wow. So I'm not being like, okay, I just got to go buy something. I'm not going to do that. But I'm trying to get rid of this cash to go into an asset that has the potential to go up in value over time. I dump out in January, okay? I do 3 webinars. That's why everybody wants to know, man, what's the rush to make more money? Because I'm broke, man. And I got a new house.
Right. You got bills to pay now. You got expenses.
So January 1st comes, I've done 3 webinars already to start filling this up again. Right now, if I walked into January 1st with $40 million sitting in a bank account, dude,
you're not hungry.
What's the rush, bro?
You're not hungry.
Yeah, let's plan. Let's do some planning this year. But what I do is I dump out. So every year for the last 15 years, every January, I end up with more assets.
What have you found are the top places that people should be investing?
First, calculate how many days, weeks, months, or years you can live on your saving. Because when you do that, you'll gain security. You'll gain that, okay? So look at how much you're spending, okay? And then say, how much do I need? And whatever that number is, you're going to need more than that because it may go down rather than go up. So, okay, now do I have a year's spending? Okay, so I think you start there. Then you start to think, what are the things that are most important for me? And then you start with your business or your residence that have a symbiotic relationship and that you know well. Let's say if you start with your business, okay, you're closer to that, investing in yourself with whatever that may end up being. That may be your best investment.
Not
Okay.
real estate, not stocks, not the market.
Well, it depends. If you're not, if you're doing something where you can do it yourself, and that's the thing. But if you're in a job and that's not the thing,
Right.
because you're in a different position. Okay. But anyway, and then I really think there's something good about your home, a basic thing about your home, because it's nice forced savings. And it also means that you fix it up. You're saving. You find out there's, oh well, if I add this thing or that thing, and you're enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're enjoying it and you're controlling it and it's yours and so on, that's pretty good. And if they keep mortgage tax deductions and so on, there might be some benefits to it also. Okay. But that's not a black and white answer. So you could take a sharp pencil and say, is it better to rent or buy? Okay. That's a different question. Maybe yes. But by and large, am I going to move? All of those other questions. But so when you start with, okay, what is it that's close to home and how much? You need a certain amount that's liquid. In other words, you got it in your house, you got to make a mortgage payment or something, and all of a sudden you're, it's not liquid and you lose your job. Well, that can cause you trouble. So how much do I have that's liquid? How much do I have that's not liquid? Okay. And you start to get those things right. Okay. I've got enough liquid. I got enough, okay, not liquid in those other things. Okay. Pretty soon you're getting yourself in good shape.
Yeah.
You do those things, you're pretty much in good shape. And then you're also having some experiences, and then you go beyond that, and then, so you start to, okay, what's a stock? What's a bond? And then, you learn through experiences. I learned through my experiences. I started when I was a kid, 12. I used to caddy. And I took my caddying money and I put it in the stock market. And I was lucky. What happened to me, by the way, is I took my caddying money and I bought the only company that I ever heard of that was selling for less than $5 a share. And I thought that, I was really dumb. I thought I'll buy more shares, so if it goes up, I'll make more money. And it was the only company. It was a company that was about to go broke, but some other company acquired it and it tripled. And I thought, this is an easy game. And I like it, easy money. So, but you experiment and you learn.
You're a very philanthropic individual. You and your wife, your foundation, your company, you give back in a lot of ways. Some might be through donations like computers, some might be through financial, some might be through just your work and your content on LinkedIn, which is amazing. I recommend everyone subscribe to you on LinkedIn. The content there is amazing. You're giving back in lots of ways. I'm curious, what's the greatest gift a rich person or someone with money can give someone who doesn't have money?
To give the knowledge, teach a man how to fish is better than to give him a fish. I mean, I think you can give them both. You can give education and you can, but ability, the capacity to be productive, because, if I can give you the capacity to go out in the world, it's like go into a jungle. I give you a knife and can you live in the jungle? Okay. If I give you that capacity, that's the best thing I can give you. That's why I wrote the book and, pass it on. I wrote those principles over years and I wrote them down, and that's what I want to pass along. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
But if you've got money, you can help people a lot in a lot of different ways, which is thrilling.
What would you say then are the three greatest skills that people that aren't financially abundant or that are struggling financially should learn to master in order to be in a better position financially? 3 skills, what would you say they should learn?
Well, as I said before, I remember watching the movie, I was young, David Copperfield with W.C. Fields, and he speaks to David Copperfield, and he said something like, and I'll put it in dollar terms, you're at $100 and you spend $105 that's misery. If you earn $100 and you spend $95, you'll have a good life. I mean, it wasn't exactly like that, but it was, but basically, I know so many people who don't earn much, but are there. Because if you start to think about what it is that it costs you to live in terms of, let's say, the basics, give me a bed to sleep in, give me the food, let me be educated, and so on and so forth. I think most people can get themselves in a position where, they're net positive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can be net positive and you could do that, that's number one, as I carry that. So that's number one. Then I guess it was the list that we went to. The second is, what do you do next in terms of what do you need? What do you invest in? Mm-hmm. And then, going beyond it. And then avoid the following mistake, the most common mistake of investing, thinking that the investment that did good is a good investment. People rather more expensive. The things that quite often, those markets that did really, really well became more expensive, and everybody, smart money, is all the time comparing them and competing. So what happens is the naive money buys the thing that was hot or is hot. The thing that has been terrible, which might be the thing that's beaten down. So I would say also an important element. Okay, so here's another one that's really important. Diversify.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right, because what I learned about this is that, first of all investments compete. And it's not easy to tell whether one investment is better than the other, because if people could do that, life would be easy and everybody'd make a ton of money. And this is a competitive game that's very difficult to compete in. So it's very difficult to say which one's better or worse. You could take experts and you could do all sorts of tests, and you'll find out that they can pick that, and you can't tell whether the worst ones are going to be better. So because of that, you understand that even picking the best ones is difficult, and particularly if you're naive. Like, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year on research to try to give us an edge. Wow. Okay. Now you've got to compete with us. So competing in the markets is more difficult than competing in the Olympics. Wow. You wouldn't go think I'm going to compete in the Olympics, but there are more people who try harder in order to do that. So it's a zero-sum game. So, but diversification, that they're different, will reduce your risk without reducing your return.
Yeah.
So if you know how to diversify well, so that's critical. So I would say, again, get your savings right. And the reasons I would say, have great humility about what you don't know. Don't buy the thing that was hot. Don't just because you think it's hot.
What do you wish we taught everyone from the ages of 10 to 20?
Sure.
5 different things around money.
First thing would be, what is money? Because money, as we know it, is fake. Our dollars are just pieces of paper. I grew up thinking that our paper dollars are like the holy grail. You want to save this money because it is the most valuable thing there is. As I became older, I started to realize that that's not the case. Our paper dollars are just pieces of paper. It's fiat currency, which means it's issued by the government, and the value is backed through the strength of the government. Now, we're lucky here that the United States is the world's superpower. We have the world's strongest military. We have the world's strongest economy, but we can't stay on top forever. And inflation is when the value of a dollar goes down. So these dollars, which many of us think that if we hoard this, we'll become wealthy, save your money to wealth, is actually keeping you poor. Wow. And it's making you poor each and every day. So the first thing you have to understand is, what is money? Second thing you have to understand is, what do wealthy people work for? And most of us, the majority of us, are taught to work to get a job and climb that corporate ladder. But wealthy people are doing something completely different. They're working to own the corporate ladder. They're working for something called equity. And this thing really blew my mind, because wealthy people are not working for that paycheck. They're working to own a piece of the company. That way they can get a piece of the profits. So the best way to understand this is, a lot of times people complain about how much money I'm making. I wish my boss paid me more. And this is where, if you start to understand the system, you'll start to ask the right questions. See, a big company, you have to ask the question, who are they working for? Are they working to take care of their employees? Are they working to take care of their customers? Neither. They're working to take care of one person, their shareholders. It's this concept called fiduciary duty.
Right.
I learned this in law school. The executives of a company have a fiduciary duty, not towards the employees, not towards the customers, but towards the shareholders, the owners of the company. Now, what that means, an easy example of this is you're going out to dinner with your girlfriend or your wife, and you're on a date, and you get a text from one of your good friends, say, hey, let's go play Fortnite right now. Your fiduciary duty at the moment is to be with your girlfriend, to be with your wife, to be with your partner, to spend time with him or her. If you go out and leave, you're gonna get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So it's who is your alliance to? And the shareholders, the executives, the CEO and the executives company, their fiduciary duty is to the shareholders, the owners of the company. So what are they trying to do? They're working to drive up the valuation of the company. So once you start to understand that, you'll realize why there's this big discrepancy between what people are paid and what people want to be paid. And when you start to understand that, you're going to change what you do with your money. That's why I said a minute ago or a little bit ago, wealthy people are working to not climb the corporate ladder, but own the corporate ladder. So how do you get that equity, that ownership? You have to own a piece of the corporate ladder. Now, if you work for a public company, that means now you can take some of your income and you can buy stock in the company. Maybe they pay you with equity. Maybe they give you some sort of revenue share. That's what we do in my companies. Or if your company doesn't do that, then you have to start taking this money that you're earning and you have to start investing it into a place where you're getting equity. Maybe that means stocks. Maybe that means real estate. It could be, there's a number of different investments, but you have to work towards that equity.
Yeah.
The third thing is that you have to think bigger. I know I grew up thinking that somebody who looks like me, somebody who's brown, somebody who wears a turban, somebody who didn't have entrepreneur, investor parents could go out and do this. Because you think that somebody like me can't do this. My parents also told me that I couldn't do it. I didn't know anybody doing it. I didn't know any investors. But you have to be the one to take that first step. And once you start to take that first step, you're going to learn and see the second step. Then you take the second step and you're like, oh, I can start $100 investment here. You don't have to start with hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Start with $100. Apps on the internet make it so much more accessible.
Right.
But anything is possible. If you live in America, you speak English, you have more opportunities than really anybody else in the world. People would literally risk their lives to come to this country because there's opportunity here. And so if you're here, you have the ability to understand what you and I are saying, and you have that technology to do it, you're blessed.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do with this, right? You have to go out and start learning. You have to go out and start doing. And then the next thing that you have to do, Number four, is you have to understand the concept of debt. Because we live in this consumer culture. And it's interesting where, we want to live this flex lifestyle, right? I want to show off on Instagram. I want to show off my new car, my new Chanel Gucci purse. And we kind of get caught up where I need to live a certain lifestyle that way people can think that I'm rich. But what you're doing now is you're living broke.
Right.
Making everybody else rich, so people think you're rich.
Right.
You're product rich, you have a lot of nice stuff, but you're broke. And so when you live that type of lifestyle, you are the reason why Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Chanel are making so much money, but it's keeping you broke. The richest person in the world, sometimes he's the second, sometimes he's the third, is the CEO of Louis Vuitton.
No way, really?
Yeah, Bernard Arnault. And why? How did he get there? Because everybody wants to look rich. Everybody wants the Louis Vuitton. I saw this in the pandemic especially. We were in a recession in 2021, but luxury sale of products were breaking new records.
Come on, really?
They're breaking records in 2021.
Why is that?
Stimulus checks went out. People had cash. And some people used that money to save. Some people used that money to pay down debt. Some people invested that money. But a big chunk of people took that money to places like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and now you go and spend it.
You would think when the economy is, well, I guess when people are losing their jobs and there's financial uncertainty of the future, you'd think people would be saving or investing, not spending on luxury goods, especially if you can't even go outside to flex it. You can only do it on social media in the comfort of your home.
You don't need to go outside anymore. You can just do it on social media.
I know.
And so if you don't have the cash to do it, people are going into debt to buy it. And it's becoming easier and easier because of now things like buy now, pay later.
Right.
It is one of the fastest growing industries in fintech. I love financial technology, but it breaks my heart. I mean, it rips my heartstrings when I see the growth of this buy now, pay later, because what does that mean? I can go out and buy anything I want, not pay for it today, pay it off over 3 months, and then if I don't, I get slapped with 25% interest. And if you are 18, or let's just say 21, I give you $6,500. You never invested another penny, but you invested those $6,500 and you could get an 18% return on that money, and you retire at 65 and you look at this investment portfolio, you would have over $11 million.
Wow.
Now, everyone watching this saying, where the heck am I going to get 18% on my money?
Exactly.
But your credit card company is doing it every single day. $6,500 is what the average American household has in credit card debt right now. And you're turning around paying these companies 18, 20, 25% a year, and they're the ones that are getting rich, not you. So what's happening? You're going into debt to buy liabilities, which are things that lose your money, and then you're paying interest on top of that, which is making everybody else rich, which leaves no money in your pocket to make yourself rich. And you have to break out of that mindset.
So what do we need to know about debt then? How do people get comfortable understanding about debt, either using it in the right ways and eliminating the debts that don't support our financial growth?
Yeah, so the first thing is never finance anything that isn't gonna pay you. Okay, so
Give me an example.
Gucci, your vacations, your car, stop financing these things that aren't paying you. And people are gonna get upset when I say your car, because they're gonna say, wait, how am I supposed to buy a car without a car payment?
Don't buy a $100,000 car unless you got the money in the bank to buy it. And plus more. Buy a used car for $6,000.
Exactly. Go buy a used car, good working condition car with cash.
Ride it for 10 years.
Exactly. The first time I made $1 million in a year, my car was $500.
Dude.
My employees had better cars than I did.
I had a $4,000 car for the first 5 years living in Los Angeles. $4,000 car, used car, 1997.
I love it.
Was the car when it was made. And that thing was great. Yeah. It was comfortable, got me from A to B.
Yeah.
It didn't break down.
Exactly.
I didn't need to be flashy.
Exactly. I still have my $500 car.
That's great.
I still drive, and it's one of those things where, because I fell into this trap, where the first time I started making money, in my culture, cars are a big thing. The Punjabi culture, people really want to put money in their cars. They want to look cool, right? So when I was 16, 17, I started making a little bit of money because I was doing my side hustles. The first thing I did was I put new rims on my car. Then I put tints on my car. Then I put HIDs on. I had two 12-inch subwoofers in my trunk, right? I put the tints on. I put a new sound system in there.
Lights around, glow in the dark. Yeah.
I had a Toyota, right? And then the next thing I was going to do was I called up my cousin. I said, guess what? I got $3,000 in the bank. I'm about to put Lamborghini doors on my Toyota.
Crazy, man.
And he's like, Justin, you're stupid. Don't do that. And so he sat on the phone with me for like 20 minutes, convincing me not to do it. Luckily, I didn't. I'm really glad I didn't. But that's where all my money was going. I looked cool. My car was cool. And that's where all my money was going. I had $1,000 in my bank, and I went out and I bought a $1,000 watch. I was like 18 years old, right? Because it was like, I was in that industry, the entertainment industry. I wanted to look cool. And then, I start to read these money books and my mindset starts to shift. And now all of a sudden, it's I went from one polar extreme to the other polar extreme. I don't want to spend a penny.
On anything.
Unless
it's making me money.
Exactly. I don't want to spend anything unless it's making me money. So now I'm saving as much money as I can. I'm investing my money as much as I can. I'm trying to build my business. And I mean, I'm talking like I'm running my shoes into the ground. They have holes in them. I put a piece of tape, wrap it up. I'm going to school. I got rental properties, but I got my shoes that are taped up, right? And it's like, I realized that I'm going to go, like, I'm not going to make those same mistakes again. Mm-hmm. And you have to break out of that mindset. The first time I made $100,000 a year, I was in school. And I was living in an apartment paying $400 a month, including my water, my electricity, my cable, my gas, my internet, everything.
Wow.
And the reason is because I didn't have a room. I slept on the living room floor. I had a little mattress. I used to pull that into the living room, put that down, go to sleep at night, wake up, fold up the sheets, put them away, drag the mattress back into the hallway, because I'm like, I realized that the power of compounding your money. Yeah. I realized the power of putting your money into the right assets. And I'm like, this is my time to build. I've been blowing this money that I'm earning on things that are making everybody else rich.
Right.
I'll spend money on that stuff a little bit later. Right now, I want to make myself rich.
Yeah.
And so, you have to just first understand what it is that's worth spending money on and what's not. And then, if you do have that debt, you've got to come up with a strategy to pay it down as fast as possible. First thing you can do, if you have a lot of credit card debt, call up the companies. See if they're going to be willing to just give you a lower amount. See if they're willing to work with you. Say, look, I got $10,000 worth of debt. I'm never going to pay this off. It's not going to happen. How about you work with me and give me $5,000 and I will work to pay that off, right? You start to work with them, see if you can do something. Then you can consider moving some of that money to a 0% APR card if you have 12 to 18 months to do that. That way now you can aggressively, you got to do the smart, because if you're just going to keep doing the same things you were before, don't do it. But you have to start aggressively paying it down. You stop spending money. That way now you can pay down this debt as fast as possible, and then you work to earn more money. And the money has to go somewhere as you're earning more money. You live the same lifestyle, if not smaller, and you take all this extra money and you use it to pay down your debt. That way now you can start building, right? You got to lay that foundation. You got to start working to grow upwards, but you have to get aggressive.
Is there ever a time where people should go into debt, the right type of debt? The credit card debt, the student loan debt, buying a car and going in debt on that, those things I'm understanding, it's not helping your financial future.
Yeah.
When is it the right time, or is there a right time in your mind to take money out and spend interest on that money?
Depends, right? If it's something that's going to make you income and you can manage the debt, then yes. But it's not for everybody.
Right.
Some people don't have it in them to manage the debt. Some people don't have it in them to manage investments. Some people don't have it in them to run a business. If you're not the entrepreneurial investor type and you don't like looking at numbers, you don't like managing money, you don't like trying to grow this, stay away from it. Now you go up, maybe you can get debt to buy a home, but that's it. But if you are more the entrepreneurial type, you have it in you that you want to grow. Now, if you're using debt, you should only be using debt to buy something that's paying you with income, something that's going to make you more money.
Do you have any debt out right now?
Right now, I do not. I have people paying me loans, but I personally don't have any debt right now. I kind of went through this phase where I have all this real estate, but I have no debt on it. And the reason is because I'm waiting for the right opportunity. I will have more debt.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the right opportunity, because right now all my real estate is paid off.
You've paid off all the real estate? How many properties do you have?
Units in the dozens, a number of units, but now I'm just waiting for the right opportunity.
And it's all paid off?
All paid off.
So now there's just cash coming in?
It's cash coming in. And do
you still have that
I still got that one. That's rented for $850 a month.
That $8,000 place?
$8,000 place.
That's just bringing in $800 a month now.
$850 a month.
Clear and free.
You got to pay your expenses, your property taxes, your insurance, your maintenance, your management fees. But right now I have no debt on it. And so now what I'm waiting for is...
And how much could you sell that for now?
Probably 100,000, 120. I mean, I don't know the exact, but something in that range.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, because when I buy real estate, I never look at what can I sell this property for. I'm looking for one thing: cash flow.
Cash flow, yeah.
And so this is a big mistake that leads people into a lot of problems in real estate, because when you start buying real estate, hoping that you'll be able to sell it for a higher price in the future, and things don't go as planned, then what?
Yeah, you're screwed.
Now you're screwed. So, for me, I look at one thing: cash flow. And will I be able to see more growth in this area? So I look where businesses are moving. Where's money moving to? And then that's where I want to invest, because I know if property prices go up, hey, it's icing. Property prices go down, it's okay. I still got my rent, which is covering my costs.
So what's your goal, right? With the dozens of units, for the opportunity for something bigger, or what's the plan?
Something, yeah, it can be anything. Something bigger in real estate, and I'm looking for the right opportunity. But again, my focus now isn't in real estate like it was before. A few years ago, I was heavy in real estate, and I was doing everything that I can there, and a lot more opportunities were there. I bought a property in 2021, haven't bought anything in 2022 yet. But my focus now is building my business because I see a bigger opportunity there for me than real estate. That's why I've been I'm still involved in real estate, but not the way that I was a few years ago.
Because you can earn more with your business if you put the attention and the energy and the money into building the team and the resources and the technology and those things.
And it's more fun because it's a lot more active for me.
Yeah.
And then, once this gets bigger, then I'll go back to real estate. But right now, like for the last few years, I've been kind of phasing slowly away from real estate as I can transition more into the business because, it's just more fun for me.
Yeah. Okay. So understanding debt was the fourth thing. What was the fifth thing you wish people learned from 10 to 20 years old about money?
You have to be willing to make mistakes, take risks, and start. And this one is hard, and it sounds simple, but a lot of people that I know, they are so hesitant to making their first investment because what if I do something wrong? What if I make a mistake? What if my investment goes down? And so the simple thing
that's happened to me multiple times.
Yeah, but you learn every time, right?
Yeah.
It's your tuition. It's your real tuition. And you have to be willing to try things because if you don't, you're going to get stuck in the game of what if. What if I lose money? What if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it goes up? What if you learn? I have made a lot of mistakes. I made a video on my YouTube channel where I went through my worst real estate deal ever. It was my third property that I ever bought. It was a home in the city of Detroit. And I made every mistake possible. Now, I'm still in college, right? I don't know what's going on exactly with real estate investing. And I bought the property and I bought it because my contractor at the time told me that we can make a lot of money on this deal. We'd be able to rent it out. We could flip it if I wanted to. And he was like, don't even worry about getting a home inspection. Now, when I buy a property now, the first thing I do is I get a property inspection where somebody walks through the deal, makes sure, a third party, an independent person, and they tell me anything wrong with the property in the foundation, in the plumbing, in really anything with the property so I know what I'm getting myself into. And so he told me don't do that. He said, don't worry, I already walked through. He's a contractor, so I figured he knows what he's talking about. All you have to do is spend $5,500 and I will make sure this property is ready to go.
Wow.
So I said, okay, let's do it. So I bought the home. I gave him a check for half, or maybe $2,500 or $3,000, something around there, $3,000. And a week goes by, nothing starts. 2 weeks go by, nothing starts. And I call him, I said, hey man, what's going on? Like, I thought we were gonna have this done in 2 weeks. Here we are 2 weeks later and you haven't even brought your materials here. So I got caught up with something's going wrong. And so now 2 more weeks go by, he brought some materials there. He started painting one wall and that was it. And so, I'm getting upset because now it's like, every day that this property is now leased out it's costing money.
Yeah.
And still nothing's getting done. Another 2 weeks go by and now I'm like, okay, look, what's going on? We got to get this taken care of because now we're 6 weeks into this deal. You haven't done a single thing. You keep putting me off. You took my money and nothing's happened. And so long story short on that, he ran away. He was having financial difficulties. That's why he wanted me to close on this deal because he needed some cash. And now he's gone. So now I have another property that somebody was working on, a manager, and he was having some issues at my property. He was causing some problems. So I figured, he's causing problems there. How about you come work at this property and you need a home. You can live in this home for free.
Fix it up.
Just fix it up.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay. So now I thought, all right, I found a good deal here. I got somebody who'll fix it up. He'll live there, take care of it, and it's going to cost me less money. And so now he's living in this property and he's like, how about this? How about you just open up a charge account at Home Depot and I'll just go buy stuff and take care of it at the home. I said, okay. So I go open up this charge account. He starts buying materials, not to work on my home, but to work on other people's properties.
Oh my gosh.
So now I'm like, dude, like you're spending my money to go work on other people's properties so you can make double profits over there. You haven't started any work on my home. You're not paying me rent. You have a dog that you're not taking care of who's pooping everywhere in the property and it's not being taken care of. And so now how do I get somebody out of this home? I got to evict him out of my own property. There's no lease in place. So now we got into all these legal issues of how do we get this person out of the home? We get him out of the home. It took me months to get him out. The property now is destroyed.
Trash. Oh man.
There's crap, literal crap all over the home. He damaged the place, did not take care of it. And now it's like, we have to start all over from negative to start fixing this property up. So now we start fixing it. I got a licensed and insured contractor. We're months into the deal. And he wants, I don't know, like a lot more money, at least 10 grand, if not more, to start doing the renovations. And we start digging deep and we start to see problem after problem after problem. So now every cost keeps adding up. Now the home is ready to go. And I'm like, all right, fine. And everybody told me, Jaspreet, don't license this home with the city of Detroit as a rental because nobody does it. And this is, again, after the 2008 crash, Detroit went through its bankruptcy. They were having their own issues, but I don't like to play games. I want to play by the rules. So I said, I'm going to get a license for rental. When you get a license for rental, they're going to send their own property inspectors out to the property and they're going to inspect it and make sure that it's okay. So now the property inspectors come out and they say, I need to lift up the home. So what do you mean lift up the home? They're like, oh yeah, we need to raise the home. I didn't even know that you could do that. Apparently you can, and it's very expensive.
Wow.
So I lift up the home. And then we start running the water in the property, and it turns out that the water is not draining to the main city line. Apparently, somebody previously living in this property had poured cement down the main drain. Now, in order to get this property working, we have to bust out the cement in the basement, take out this pipe, put in a new pipe, re-pour the cement, and then these property inspectors start disagreeing with one another. One person says that you need a 10-foot electrical riser. So we make it 10 feet. The next one comes, says, why is it 10 feet? It needs to be 13 feet. I'm like, your first person said 10. And now they start fighting with each other and we have to keep paying for these inspectors to come back. They keep charging me permit fees for everything. If I want to paint the windowsills, it's a $100 permit fee. Change the smoke detectors, $75 permit fee. So this goes on and on and on and on for months. Finally, now we're approved for rental. I was like, oh my God, like this is the biggest headache of my life. We get a tenant in the property, we get licensed, a tenant's in the property, and now we have the license and the property inspector just decides to go back to the property. They don't tell us. They just go back there. Even though we're fully licensed, they had no reason to go there. They knock on the door, and apparently, we didn't know this, the tenant was having a babysitting operation in a property. So now the inspector sees this, that this tenant is running an illegal babysitting operation. He tells us, he fines us, tells us we need to evict the tenant. And now we have to start this process all over again. So after that point, I was like, you know what, just sell this property.
Wow.
Because this is the biggest headache. And that was the only deal I ever lost money on. But I learned a lot. It was my tuition. So you have to be willing to learn, be willing to make mistakes, and then be willing to grow from those mistakes, go on and keep willing to go.
I would assume a lot of your viewers are business owners or getting started in business. No matter how good you are in business, think about this. The one universal rule that idiots in finance know is diversification. It's the only free lunch. You got to diversify. Because if you put all your eggs in one basket, no matter how good the basket is, one day that real estate market, that stock market, that bond market, that collectibles market, whatever you invest in, Ray Dalio showed me statistically, it'll drop 50 to 70% on a day. Now, if you're later in life when that happens, it's over for you.
Right.
So you have to diversify, and yet most people, they know real estate, so they do it, or they know stocks, so they do it, or they grew up with their parents flipping things, and it's the wrong thing to do. So you've got to diversify in order for you to be able to truly succeed, and that's why when you own a business, if you put all your money in your business, which is what most of us do naturally,
a lot of risk.
You put all your eggs in one basket, and there's things that can happen. I mean, let's say you spent 20 years and you figured out how to put together the ultimate map, and you remember Garmin came out with this thing called a TomTom. I don't know if you remember, you used to put on your, are you old enough to remember that? You used to put on your phone? Or you used to put on your dash? Cost $100. It was a breakthrough.
They were making like $100 million or something.
They were. 6 months later, what happened?
The iPhone came out with Google Maps.
These little bastards, excuse my French, came out with it, put Google Maps, put their own map on here, and it costs how much? $0. What's that going to do to your business when someone takes your product or service and gives it away for free? So I always tell people, competition happens, technology happens. What you must do is have a second business with no moving parts, no people, no time. Maybe it takes you 3 days a year for 2 or 3 hours after you've read the book. You put it in place and you measure it 2 or 3 times a year. That's it. Go on with your life. Now if there's a trouble in your business, you're financially set. In my life, I have 31 companies now. We have, what do we have? 1,200 employees, 7 different industries. We do $5 billion in sales. Yep. I mean, that used to be, me and my seminar business. It's grown geometrically. Wow. But with all those moving parts, the only way I've been able to succeed is because I've taken every one of those businesses and I've diversified my assets so that when things were in trouble, I still have enough economics to take care of myself and keep the business going. So everybody needs to create a money machine that works while you sleep, that doesn't have moving parts, and that's what this is really about.
You have a great cartoon in the book where there's a kid asking his father, something about like, how do you invest your money, or how's the stock market work? And he says, you put your money in at the peak, it starts to go down and lose money, and so you get scared and you take it out, and then someone smarter than you makes all the money. That's something right. Like that. So and I've done that in the past, where I put my money in somewhere high, it went down, and I was like, oh, I just lost a bunch of money, let me take it out. Yeah. And then I put it back in another time, and I'm like, what am I doing? So how do we invest without fear of, oh, it's going down, I need to take it out, or like trying to time it? How do we do that?
Great question. It's one of the main reasons I wrote the book. I always tell people, if you just read the second chapter of the book and nothing else, it'll change your life. You can do that with multiple chapters, but that chapter is really about teaching people that winter is coming. Yes. We all know winter's coming, right, to coin a phrase, but that winter is the best time on earth. And I know that's counterintuitive, and I don't mean like being a positive thinker. I mean pure facts. So in the book, I take you through 10 facts. I'll give you a couple of them right now. Yep. The first fact I give people is, why do people not invest? They're afraid of failing. If you're a millennial, right? Mm-hmm. So you grew up witnessing 2008 when you were still relatively young. How old are you now?
33.
Okay, so you were what, 27? What?
2008. Yeah, 27. I guess.
Yeah, 27, 28 years old. So you're a young man, and you're watching the world melting down in front of you. Yeah. For most millennials, they are the first generation since the generation that went through the Depression that is not investing at the ratio they need to, even close.
And they have more debt than everyone probably, right? With all the
They have more loans. College debt than everyone, absolutely true.
I have a friend that has $400,000 in debt, dental school.
President Obama just paid off his debt 5 years ago while he was still president.
No.
I swear to God.
Oh my gosh.
It's mind-boggling. And he had a bunch of scholarships, but the last bit, it took him that long. So what I tell them is, listen, paying off your debt's not enough. You've got to become an owner, or you're always going to be in that place. So yes, pay off your debt, but here's what you need to know. You got to become an owner. You got to get in the game, but you got to understand the rules of the game. If you don't know the rules of the game, the old phrase is, when a person with experience meets a person with money, we know the phrase, the person with the money ends up with the experience, the person with experience ends up with your money, right? Yeah. So I teach people the rules of the game so they don't get screwed. But the most important thing is this. Winter's coming, but people react. So let's take last year. Last January, 2016, we had the worst stock market opening in the history of the stock market. First, I think it was 10 days. Yeah. There was a drop of $2.3 trillion with a T.
Crazy.
Everybody's freaking thinking the bear market's here, the market's over, the crash is here. I think the market dropped 800 points one day. And on that day, all the richest people in the world were in Davos, Switzerland, for the big conference that they do every year. And they went there, MSNBC went there, and everybody's freaking, what's happening? What are we going to do? And they said, let's go ask Ray Dalio. Now, your listeners may or may not know Ray Dalio as, if you're not in the financial business, probably never heard of him. You probably heard of Warren Buffett, but Ray Dalio's done more. You had to have a $5 billion net worth and $100 million to give him, or he wouldn't talk to you 10 years ago. Now, he doesn't give a shit how much money you have, he won't talk to you, because he's got a closed fund. But they go and they put Dalio on television, CNBC, he's the king. What do we do? And he says, well, you don't need to panic. Corrections happen all the time. Yeah. But you need a strategy that when markets go up and down, you don't go up and down. And he said, I spent 15 years of my life to perfect such a strategy. All of my money's in that plan. And he said, it's called All Seasons, and I've never revealed it before, but I gave it to Tony Robbins. He extracted from me, and it's his book. So you got to go read his book. This is what he says on national television the day the markets are crashing. And that day, to give you an idea, which is the beginning of February, I think it was 9 days into February, the market was down 9% in the first 5 weeks of the year. His strategy, which he gave me, which has made money 85% of the time for the last 75 years. Wow. It's averaged a 10% return, just under, and the average loss, when at 15% loss, was 1.6. Right. So if you go to Vegas and you could spend 85% of the time make money, and when you made money it was 10%, your loss is 1.6, you go forever. His plan made 2% while the market was down 9%. So it was up 11% difference. Now, I'm not suggesting that's the only strategy to do. There's many. His is the smoothest ride with the least risk. But what it did was combination of that, and then right after that, I interviewed Fed Chair Alan Greenspan. He was the head of our economy, the most powerful man in finance for 19 years, 4 presidents. He was there running. I was just with President Clinton this last week. He was the Fed chair for him. And I interviewed him for like 2 hours, or 3 hours off stage, 2 hours in front. And I asked him in the very beginning of this thing, I said, look, if you could be put in the Fed today, what would you do? And he looks at me, and as I said, he leans forward and he says, resign. So I look at that and go, oh my God, I need to write a book that'll free people. So here's what will free you. Everyone's afraid of the crash. So here's what you need to know, 2 terms you should understand. Correction versus crash. Anytime the market drops from its high by 10% or more up to 20, it's called a correction.
Right.
If it drops 20% or more up to 80%, like in the Great Depression, then it's called a crash or called a bear market. Okay. So how often does a correction happen? How often do we have to be prepared for it? Since 1900, we've had a correction on average every year for 116 years. So when is winter coming? This year on average.
Every
It's
year.
like, how often does winter come? You wouldn't be surprised if it stormed and rained. Now, some winters are long, some are short, some are harsh, some are light, but winter always comes. So I wasn't panicked when this happened last year. I'm not panicked whenever it happens because I know it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
How long does it last? Average, 56 days. Okay, so just under 2 months. What's the average drop during that time? 14% over the last 30 years, 13.5 over the last 100 years. So I use the more recent one. 14% gets your attention, right? 14% you get a little gut check.
Yeah.
But here's what you need to know. 80% of all corrections never become a bear market. 80%. So all this fear, and what people do is what you said you did, is they see it, it's freaking out, I'm losing money, I'm the hell out of here, and they get out. The stock market never took a dime from anybody, only you can take it from you. You sold, that's why you lost. Right? So if you look back and say, what was it like in 2008? I can remember vividly being with my platinum partners and saying, you see these $80 stocks? This is 6 months before the crash. I told them in April, I brought them to Dubai and I said, these stocks are gonna go to 8 and some are gonna go to $1. Wow. And by October, and I told them what to do, so they were able to get out. October, I go on the Today Show in October of 2008 and they go, Tony, there's been $3 trillion meltdown. Pump the country up. You got 4 minutes. like,
ready to go.
That's not what I do, first of all. And I said, I'd be a lie. I'm not going to pump up. At that point, the $80 stocks were 8. I said, some of those, I said, I'm not a market forecaster, but I work with Paul Tudor Jones, one of the greatest investors in the history of the world. In the biggest market crash in history, 1987, he made 200%.
Wow.
When everybody else was losing their entire life. And I've been coaching him continuously now for 24 years, every single day. Wow. So I said, I work with the best in the world. And they're telling me based on history in the 30s and history in the 70s, this $8 stock, some are going to be $1. And I remember the day in March of 2009, Citibank, which had been, I think, $70, sold for 97 cents. You could go and take your money out of the ATM. It costs you more to take your money out than to own the bank, right? And then I told people it'll jump from 99 cents to $6, $10, $12 in a month or two, and it's exactly what it did, right? So what you got to know is corrections happen every year. You got to know they're a couple of months. You got to know it's 14%, and you won't lose because 80% of the time it doesn't go to a bear. Now, what about the bear? The bear market, it happens, to give you an idea, in the last 100 years, every 3 to 5 years. We've gone 8 without one. We're way overdue.
Yeah.
So in modern years, last 30 years, it's about every 5 years. The average length of a bear is 1 year. The average drop is 33%.
Wow.
A third of those drops go 40% or above. That, I don't care how well prepared you are, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
But it is the greatest opportunity in your lifetime to go from wherever you are financially to where you want to be. I hope your audience is listening right now. Hear me. If you want to leapfrog and you're a millennial and you think there's no future, or you're, a baby boomer and you think you're too old and it's too late, the greatest gift you have is coming. I know it doesn't sound like it. This is not positive thinking bullshit. This is the truth. Wall Street, the stock market, is the only place that when things go on sale, people freak out. If I said, you like Ferraris?
Sure.
If I said to you, Ferraris go on sale for 50% off.
Awesome.
But when I tell you Apple's on sale for 50% off, you go, oh, what am I going to do here? What's wrong? The whole world's coming to an end. If you think about it, how old are you?
33.
33. So let's assume if you were 35 and you lived to 85, you got 50, 52 years ahead of you. That means you have 52 more corrections to live through.
Right.
That means you're probably in those 50 years going to have 10 more bear markets to live through. If you're going to have a gut checks every time or you're going to leave out of it,
Right.
if you didn't participate because you thought, oh, the market's too volatile, I can't trust it, all that stuff, you missed 250% return in the last 8 years. I mean, you've missed out on everything while you're waiting for things to be better. And if you won't do it when it's like this, when it crashes, you're not going to get in.
Sure.
So here's the good news about the bear. The good news about the bear, average ones a year. Could be longer, but that's the average. Could be shorter. But here's what's cool. Every single bear market in the history of the United States has led to a bull market, meaning right afterwards. So 2008, this plummeting, what happened in 2009? Up 67% in a year. I can show you every single bear market, and the next year when it comes out, it's this explosion. Now, that's not true in every market in the world. It's true for 2 centuries in the United States.
Wow.
So that's why Warren Buffett says, I want to be greedy when people are afraid. And I want to be afraid when people are greedy. If you remember 2008, he was telling everybody, buy. He was having the time of his life. Buy, everything's on sale. So what you have to do to become unshakable is turn, the metaphor I use is turn the snake into the rope, meaning we all know the story. It's the middle of the night. You're walking through the yard or someplace and you see a snake and you're freaked out. You pull back, you come in the morning and it's a rope. Once you know it's a rope, you're never afraid again.
Yeah.
I want to take for people investing and show them how to turn that snake into the rope it really is. And I'll tell you one final stat on all this. People always say, and you started bringing up timing. How do I time it? Like right now, things are too expensive. I want to wait. People have been saying that for 8 years. Is there going to be a correction? Yes. But when it corrects, you want to invest again. You'll get dollar cost averaging. If you paid a little too much here, you'll paying less here. It'll bring the average price to a reasonable place. It's going to allow you to succeed. But here's what people need to know about timing. If you are not in the market, it's the most dangerous thing. This is so counterintuitive, so I hope your audience is listening. Let me show you. There's 2 different research projects. One was done by JP Morgan. I just spoke for them the other day at their Alternative Investments Conference. And to be in the room, there are 400 people. You have to have $1 billion network to get in the room.
Crazy.
It was mind-boggling, right? So JP Morgan did a study, and also Schwab did a separate study, 20-year studies. In the last 20 years, to give you an idea, the average S&P 500, that index, has produced 8.2%. Over 30 years, it was 10.28. But in the last 20 years, a little bit less. Still great. You double your money, roughly you're in a position where you double the money a little more than every, what is it now, 7.2, so it'd be like a little more in 10 years. But here's what they found out. If you miss the 10 best trading days in 20 years, because you're trying to time the market and you're not in it during one of those days, you went from 8.2% return over that period per annum, per year. It dropped down almost half, 4.5. What are the chances of you knowing the best 10 days to trade in 20 years? None, right? Warren Buffett said, market timers and market forecasters are only there to make fortune tellers look good because no one can do it successfully. Even if they do it for a while, it doesn't last. It's luck. Jack Bogle told me, he started Vanguard, $3 trillion company. Wow. He said, we took gorillas, 1,000 in a room, and had them flip coins. And we said, how many times they got heads, how many got tails? Just gorillas flipping them randomly. And he said one gorilla in that set of those turns flipped heads 21 times in a row. Now, when you look at that and see all these gorillas doing it, you look out and say, what a lucky gorilla. He said, but in the hedge fund industry and the mutual fund industry, when somebody does 10 in a row, you go, what a brilliant investor.
Right, what a genius.
And it's just averages and luck at that time.
That's it, yeah.
In fact, he showed me that 96% of all mutual funds fail to match the market over a 10-year period of time. Only 4% make it, and they're constantly changing.
Crazy.
So the statistic I want people to know is, if you miss the 20 best trading days in the last 20 years, just 20 days in 20 years, one day a year in 20 years, and you're wrong on timing. Your 8.2 doesn't drop to 4.5, it drops to 2%. You might as well have been owning a bond and have no and no risk.
Right.
If you miss the top 40 trading days, to give you an idea, you are minus 2%. So you got to get in the market. And if you're saying, what about my timing though? Study was done by Schwab. If you got the perfect timing for the year, the right day, the best possible day to buy, some people, the worst day, someone else dollar cost averages, just keep spending the same amount every month, regardless of prices, and somebody stays in cash. Who has the worst return?
The guy trying to time or no?
Cash.
The cash.
You get nothing for cash.
Gotcha.
The guy who was the best had the best timing.
Got it.
The guy that was the worst, the guy that dollar cost average and the one that was on the worst day were almost identical. But after 7 years, there was only a $20,000 difference in accumulated assets between the worst day and the best day. The worst was not being in the market.
Right.
So you got to be there. And I'm not saying put everything in stocks. We teach in the book all these different assets to
Diversification,
diversify.
yeah.
But stocks in the last 2 centuries have provided the highest return. So you have to have significant exposure to that if you want to get the highest return.
Got it. And what I love in the book, you say that 80% of financial success is psychological, 20% is mechanical, right?
Yes.
So it's not about timing and trying to like figure all these things out and when's the best thing or the best fund or best
This is not
whatever.
about trading, it's about investing.
Exactly.
Trading is trying to do that, and most people lose money trading. Even the guys that tell you make money, see how they're making money 2 or 3 years from now. They usually eat the dust, right?
Exactly.
So yes, you've got to have the psychology, and my best way of psychology is not to pump you up. If you want to be unshakable, you want to be educated, and you want to know the facts. You want to know, look, every 5 years, I'm going to get a bear, maybe 3 years. I'm going to get a correction every year, but I'm going to be in the market and make money. Do you know that 6 of the 10 best trading days in the 20 years happened within 2 weeks of the worst trading day?
Why is it such a taboo topic in general?
Yes.
I think for all classes, all individuals.
I
it's
totally
like,
agree. It's like it's so funny because, and I wrote about this in my book, like for women, we have shame if we don't have enough money, but we also have shame if we have quote unquote too much.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's like, I have more than them and let me hide it because people are going to think I'm showing off, or they have imposter syndrome, right? Am I worthy of having this much money? I've experienced that myself at different times, right? Like you've worked hard for it, but you think that you don't deserve it for some reason. And I think that I think society was sort of designed so that we wouldn't talk about money.
Why?
Because I think it's designed so that we have a few people at the top and a lot of people at the bottom. And so now, then of course the middle class emerged, and we've gone through different things as a middle class, as a collective, right? But I think I think that's part of the reason why it's like, don't tell, employers saying, don't tell your coworkers how much you're making because I'm paying you more than I'm paying this one and I don't want y'all to know, right? So it's like, it comes from those places, but it's reinforced everywhere,
Right. Everyone's reinforcing it.
Exactly. And I think
Not just corporations or.
Yes. And because there's so much mystery, it's like, I don't know how much you make, right? You don't know, maybe you know how much I make because I talk about it all the time, but I don't, you know what I mean? So like, we don't know, and we're scared to make assumptions, and we're sort of guessing, and we're like, well, if I put mine out there, I might be embarrassed because I discovered that like I'm actually either making too much related to my peers or too little. And I think it goes back to belonging. We just want to belong to a community, to a group. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so because of that, it's like we don't want to do anything that's going to make us not belong. It's just an inherent human need to belong. And so I think that we don't talk about money because we think it's going to affect our ability to belong, whether it means we're too broke or we have too much, or somewhere in the middle.
So what conversations should we be having around money? How consistently should we be having them, and with who?
Yes. Okay. So in terms of the conversations I'm having, I'm telling people like, if I get a speaking gig, here's how much they paid me, right? And I asked for more and they gave it to me. So make sure you do that too, right? Like, or I negotiated for higher pay, or I negotiated for profit sharing, or I asked for more vacation days, right? Like we need to share our money earning strategies with each other, especially with, women and people of color, right? Like putting more money, like that's what allyship is, in my opinion, is putting money in the pockets of the groups who need them, right? And who, we have this huge wealth chasm in this country. So like, how can we start to change that? And so that's why I share how much I got paid for a book deal, like all these things that you're not supposed to share. I'm like, I'm gonna tell y'all. This is how much I got, this is how I got it, And I think it's important. So I think sharing money-making strategies is very important. I also think one of the things that has been so valuable to me with some of my peers, especially, I will say, my white guy peers in particular, have showed me, like, they have taught me things about, like, investing strategies or, you know, like, oh, here's a strategy that I'm doing with my money, or I'm investing in real estate, or I'm doing these different things. Like, what are people doing with money once you have some, right? Like once you have a little bit more than you need to live off of, what do you do with the excess? And sharing those things, right? Sharing that information, because it's usually hidden. And it's like, there's a small group of people that know, and you don't know until you have peers who have done it, and then you find out, right?
Right.
In those quiet conversations that aren't on, you know, on Facebook, right?
Sure.
So
Should people be talking with their friends, their family members, their spouses
Yes.
about money? Or
Yes.
what if someone's really uncomfortable, says, you know what, I don't want to talk about the money I make and what we should be doing? What conversation can you have to try to
Yes.
break the wall down?
Well, I think you could say, here's why I want to talk about money. And here's why, like, we have to be, I think if we're willing to be transparent, people will be transparent with us. That's what I found in the conversations that I've had. And that's how I've learned a lot about money, is by having conversations. You know, like the friend that I was spending time with last night, she's an investor and a financial advisor. And so I was asking her, like, okay, well, what are you investing in, and how are you thinking about it, and what is an investment thesis? Like, I don't even know what that means, right? Like, you know, we were having conversations, and she was teaching me all of this stuff because I was willing to tell her, like, okay, here's how much money I want to invest, but I don't know where best to put it, you know, that kind of thing. So I think you just got to be willing to put yourself out there first. And I find that people want to talk about it. So when I bring it up and I start sharing, they immediately start sharing, because it's like they were like waiting for an opportunity to talk about this.
Yes.
Is what I find. So I think we just got to start doing it, and create more transparency around it. And then, it creates opportunity for all. And that's the other piece of it, is like, I recognize that, you know, even someone who would be considered a direct competitor, maybe they sell the same thing I sell. I don't believe in competition in that way. I think there's more than enough money to go around. I think there's more than enough opportunity to go around.
Yes.
And I choose to, like, be friendly with and support my competitors, quote unquote, and vice versa. And that just means that we all get better at what we're doing. We all can serve our clients better, right? We all can make more money. There are times where I'm too trusting, and someone, you know, I don't know, I guess you could, for lack of a better phrase, steals from me, right? Or takes an opportunity, or says one thing but does another behind my back, whatever. And that's going to happen too. But I'm like, but I don't want to be a person who's closed. So I just got to be me, and it is what it is, right? Like, there's going to be some occupational hazards when you're being transparent.
Absolutely.
And you just got to navigate that as best you can. But I just choose to be who I want to be in the world, instead of who I feel like I need to protect myself, you know?
What was harder for you, making your first $100,000 in a year, or making your first $1 million in a year?
$100,000 for sure.
Why is making $100,000 harder than making $1 million in a year?
Because it's like, I think we're just figuring it out. I also think we're charging too little for our work at that point.
Is this when you were working as a career, or when you had your own business, or freelancing?
I never made $100,000 prior to starting my business.
Got it.
You know, I went from college to, like, I had a job in between college and law school, and then I went to law school, and then I started my own practice. So
you didn't work at a law firm after law school. So you started pretty much right away being an entrepreneur.
Right.
Which is really hard to do.
Yes, my last salary before I became an entrepreneur was $41,000 a year, and like really good health insurance.
Yeah.
And I was thrilled.
That was in between law school, or in between school and law school, is that what you said?
Yes.
Gotcha.
No, in between. This was after law school, because this was my clerkship.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, you know, you kind of sign on for a year. Your paycheck is not that big, but like, and you're a lawyer, right?
You're learning the ropes. You're getting reps.
Exactly.
You're getting experience.
And that's kind of why I decided to start my business at that time, because I'm like, I already don't have a lot, right? Like, I already know how to live off of this amount of money. Yeah. So I'm like, if I can live off of this now, let me keep my expenses this way, or lower them even more. Like, I sold my car, and we owned a house, and we rented it out, moved into a smaller place.
And how many kids do you have at this time?
I had none yet.
Okay.
Oh, well, actually, that's not true. I had my stepdaughter, but she didn't live with us full time.
Okay.
And so that's what I did at that stage, is like, I cut down my expenses as much as I could so that I could build this business.
How old were you then?
I was 27,
Okay.
I want to say,
Got it.
2009. Or no, yeah, 2009 to 2010.
Okay, cool.
This was that year. And then I clerked for the judge, and I started my practice. And I was like, I made like, there were months where I made $500 and months that I made $2,000. And that's why like linking together, my friend bought a salon. She was a hairstylist. She wanted to buy her first salon. I did the transaction. She was purchasing an existing business and I charged her $500 for that. I don't think I've actually ever told anybody that.
That's cheap.
Because I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I didn't know what to charge for that. Wow. And that I undervalued my services so much that I like literally have never told anybody that I charged $500 for that. And she's still a good friend of mine.
Wow.
And she's...
That's not her fault.
No, it's not her fault.
Yeah,
she made bank with that salon and she's since now sold it.
But you also got experience doing that, doing that transaction, that deal, which you'd probably never done at that level.
Yes.
Seems like. So you gained confidence from that.
Yes.
So there was a win there for you as well.
There was a win. But when I saw how many hours of labor were involved.
You put like weeks probably, right?
Yes, I'm negotiating with the other side, dealing with like a difficult lawyer.
And $500 is a steal.
I mean, for the whole thing.
Can I hire you for that?
I should have charged $5,000 minimum, But it was like, but I learned from that. I add value. Of
course.
I can figure it out, and I have a skill in that. I'm trained in knowing how to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that was kind of like working on the job experience. Like you weren't fully probably experienced for that yet, it sounds like, but you learned, okay, I didn't need to do these 10 hours of calls that I did here. I could have done this in an email or whatever. I don't know how this works, but whatever it was, you learned your process to simplify it, to maximize it. So
exactly. And back to that $100,000 question, I think that's why. It's like we're figuring it out. Usually we don't know exactly what we sell in those early stages of the business, so we're selling everything. Whatever people come to us with, we're like, yeah, we could do that. We just create a custom offer for that.
Whatever money we can bring in, we'll do it.
We will take it. And so you're very busy. I call this stage busy bee because you're very busy at this stage, but nothing's refined, nothing's efficient. Everything is just sort of like your massive labor towards whatever you can make happen. And so that first $100,000, I think you are hustling for that. But in order to get to $1 million, or at least to do it in a way that feels sustainable, you need systems, you need process, you need team, right? And so now you're starting to build a sustainable business. You're not just, by brute force making money.
And you need to clarify your offering and your audience and your niche and what your specialty is. You're
exactly.
I'm not just a lawyer that can do anything you want me to do, but here's what I really specialize in.
Exactly.
And here are my 3 packages at these different levels. And And you
and
go all in on marketing that.
Yes. And there's money that you're saying no to.
Absolutely.
You learn that lesson that not all money is good money.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
It's so weird. I say this a lot to people. I go, it's weird that I'll turn down massive checks all the time.
Yep.
But I'm just like, that's not what I want to do, and it doesn't serve my mission.
Yes.
If it's not serving the mission, and I don't need the money, then I shouldn't do something just to bring in more money.
Exactly.
For me.
It's a distraction.
At different stages of my life, a different season, now I said yes to everything. When I'm broke, you say yes to all these things.
Yes.
But then when you're like, okay, I'm here for a mission, and to serve at the highest level of my skills and abilities, that brings me the most joy and brings others the most joy and benefits the most number of people, then you start saying no to money, which is crazy.
Yes.
It sounds crazy, doesn't it?
It's delightful. I love it.
No,
I feel like, to me, it lets me know that I've not made money my master.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's very important, but it is a tool.
That's good. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not beholden to it, and I won't trade anything for it. There's plenty of things that I will not do, and I don't care how much you pay me, So I think that it's good to remember that. And so when you're turning down opportunities, it's just an example of like, okay, I'm doing things right.
Well, I think you got to understand that just because you turn down money over here doesn't mean it's not going to keep coming to you. Like, just because you turn down something that's not right for you doesn't mean abundance of something that is right will keep coming to you.
There's so much opportunity. There's always more where that came from.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's powerful. Okay, so the first 100,000, how long did it take you? How many years until you made 100,000 in 1 year? Can you remember? Roughly.
So my first year in business, and it was like, I started September 1st, 2010. And so from that year till like September 2011, I made like 60 grand that first year.
That's right.
But I think the first full 12-month calendar year was like year 2. So it didn't take too long.
And then how long until you made 7 figures in 1 year?
Yeah, that took me 7 years.
After that, From starting business.
From September 2010, I think it was 6. It was like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
I think 2017 was my first 7-figure year. And I had gotten close, but not, almost
Crossing,
there, but not quite. And twice. And you know what? It was interesting. What happened is, like, I had my business, my revenue was doubling in the beginning. It was like, I made 100 grand, then I made 2 or 250. And then, you know, then I made 500. Then
it's like,
I plateaued. And,
it's like, okay, 560 and
right.
620.
I know. It started making me mad. Like from 500 to 700,000. I think I was there for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And there was all kinds of stuff going on in my life. One, there was a lawsuit that one of my business partners. So like, this is one of the things where too trusting too quickly caused some issues. So that was a huge distraction for me at that time. I had 2 babies back to back.
Wow.
So, you know, I was busy with them. And then there were just a lot of lessons I needed to learn. Like I had all these people working for me, but I didn't have good boundaries. And I just kind of let them do whatever they wanted and didn't have, you know, like I was learning how to become a boss. I was learning how to become a leader and a manager.
It's so much more challenging than just doing your skill. Like, let me just be good at the law thing, which is what people wanted me for.
Yes.
Now they want my business for that and me, but I've got to train the team and
to deliver. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
It's a different skill.
It's totally different, and it can be challenging. And I think that's why a lot of times we're like, well, I'm just going to go back to doing it myself. And it's like, you can, but it's going to keep you small.
Yeah.
You have to say yes to those challenges and learn that new skill, right? And I think leadership skills are so valuable and for everybody. So, I had to learn that, and it took me a couple of years to like figure out how to have stronger boundaries, figure out how to stop letting people waste my time, figure out how to charge for what my services are worth, right? All of those things, those were lessons that I was learning in that time.
Who was wasting your time? Like clients or
everybody?
Employees or
clients were wasting my time, team were wasting my time. Even family members, right? Like I my desk was like right in the front door. So like, it's like the door is here. My desk is right here. My husband would like be coming in and out. He's a stay-at-home dad at the time, taking care of the kids. And he just ran a tight ship with our household. It was amazing. Like I had so much support in that way. But he would like, every time he came through the door, wanted to talk to me, interrupt
me. I gotta
me.
focus.
Yes, exactly. It was like, I didn't know how to create boundaries around my work time.
Instead of being derisive and saying, oh, so stupid, that's ridiculous, I would never do that. I actually want to encourage everyone to be curious. Why would a guy like Lewis intentionally spend money on a business class ticket? Man, he earns good money. He has a lot of options. He must know something that I don't. And I want to understand why. So from D to C. And if you start to take that perspective, especially on high earners and how they spend their money, all of a sudden you stop saying, that's ridiculous. Or if I had $1 million, I would never do that. Instead, you say, why did that person spend on that? And I want to know. Maybe I don't agree. Maybe, you become a multimillionaire and you don't want to spend on business class. You just don't care. But it's interesting that you do it, and I'd like to know more.
Yeah, but I'm also always trying to save.
Yeah.
Like, I'm willing to spend, but I want to save a lot if it's going to be expensive. I'm like, I'm always telling my assistant, like, look for the deal, for the deal. Like, even if it's $1,000, try to get it half off.
Okay, so that's...
I'm willing to spend, but save me money too.
Okay, so that's a great point that I want to demystify a little bit about high earners. A lot of folks think that once you make $250K or 2.5 million, whatever the number is, that suddenly you're just throwing money around left and right. And that's not quite correct. It might seem like that because to spend, say, $7,000 for a business class international flight just seems like, oh my God, that's so crazy. But I want you to get more nuanced. You're telling your assistant, say, I don't mind spending, but save.
Yes.
What I do with my financial system is I set a target each year. This is how much money I'm going to save and invest. And those numbers are aggressive. That's a lot of money.
You're going hard.
Yeah, like
so
every year.
10%, 30%?
Yeah, so anywhere between those ranges. And we have folks who...
Of what you earn.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then remember, whenever I make any unexpected income, let's say I did a speaking gig or something. Yeah, I might get myself I might go out to dinner, but the rest I'm just putting straight in investments.
Wow.
Okay, so that money grows aggressively. And I also want to remind everybody, especially the entrepreneurs watching, I know you have a lot of entrepreneurs, you wouldn't believe how many entrepreneur friends I know who have a good business and they don't invest at all. And that's a huge mistake.
What should you be investing in if you have a good business?
Simple, low-cost, target date funds is a great way to go. Entrepreneurs...
So index funds?
Yeah, index funds.
Yeah.
They get a little too smart for their own good. They say, I could just put that money in my business. And I always say, look, I'm glad you have a business that's throwing off tons of cash. That's awesome. Most businesses don't last 80 years.
Yeah.
So be smart. Give yourself a small plan B. Put $5K a month, 10K a month, whatever's appropriate for your level of success. And hey, maybe your business does really well. That's awesome. But maybe one day something goes wrong. Always want to be prepared. You never want to have your back against the wall. So I just want to encourage everybody, whether you're making 250K or 2.5 million, for the high earners here, don't get too smart for your own good. Keep investing and saving.
What are the 3 or 4 main things you invest in with that 10 to 30% a year?
Yeah.
And does it change year to year?
Yeah, I'll kind of walk you through for the high earners, and then we can talk about people 100K and less. So once you have a certain amount of capital, you do have a few opportunities that you probably didn't have before. Everybody has this idea that, the rich have all these crazy tax breaks and captive insurance and this and that. And I've looked into all that stuff, right? I know
building insurance companies and all these other things, right? Yeah.
Here's the truth. The truth is,
some stuff is a little sketchy, but yeah.
Definitely. And I'll say my core values are that when it comes to things like taxes,
I love your principle on this.
I'm very conservative. I'm like, dude, only in this country could I have been this successful.
I love this mindset. Yeah.
I'm happy to pay my taxes. It means that I had the opportunity to create something great. And if I pay an extra $5,000 or $30,000, it doesn't change my life at all. And I want to be able to give back to the society that enabled me to do what I do.
That's a powerful mindset. And it gets you away from, you still want to optimize tax breaks that are out there, but it gets you away from trying to constantly look for some of the shortcuts or like schemes or something.
Yes, I've always found that the people, especially entrepreneurs who talk about tax breaks all the time, are typically the most unsuccessful ones.
Wow.
2 reasons. 1, why are you talking about tax breaks instead of growing your business?
Yeah.
And 2, it's a very scarcity driven mindset. Ooh, I only have this much that I have to protect. When really you can just grow the pie and your taxes are simply a proportion. Just make more. Now, yes, you do want to optimize and take advantage of all legal tax breaks. So as you earn more, you do have more opportunities. You have not only your 401k, you have all kinds of advanced IRA options, you have HSAs, you have a variety of things. But at a certain point, if you're making enough, you're going to max all of those out.
Yep.
Okay,
so what do you do when you max it all out?
So then the next step is to simply create a taxable account. It's just a typical non-retirement account, just at Vanguard or where I use Vanguard, whatever you want. And you just continue to invest. So that's one, and that's going to keep making you money over the long term. It's just you're not going to get those tax breaks from a 401k, an IRA, et cetera. The other thing is, as you accumulate more and more assets, you're going to start to notice a lot of different people are going to come with opportunities. I get text messages from these crazies. They're like, hey, I'm opening up a bar in Brooklyn. I'm like, I don't want your stupid bar. I'm not investing in that. I could burn my cash easier. But you're going to want, as you start to accumulate a lot, you're going to want to have a little fun with your money when it comes to investing. So some people want to do crypto. I think a lot of these people are complete nut jobs.
It's crazy,
okay?
man.
Look, you crypto.
I put a little bit in there just to like have fun, but I was like, thank goodness I didn't put more in there because everyone's losing their money now.
Exactly. And they're all, okay, I don't even want to get into crypto because I'm going to get a lot of angry emails. Hey, if you want to email me about your angry crypto opinions, just send it to trash@iwillteachyoutoberich.com. Don't send it to me. But you know what? I like what you said. You took a little bit, you had some fun.
Yeah, had some fun.
5 to 10% once you've got all your other stuff automated, you've got your index funds locked down, HSA, your different accounts. I don't have any problem. I think you should take 5 to 10% and you should have some fun with it. For me, I did angel investing and I basically learned that I suck.
Yeah,
my angel investing is not good.
I haven't made any money from investments.
My deal flow sucks. My choices were okay. Some hit, most didn't. I basically just wrote that money off. But it was fun and it allowed me to have an outlet.
And you learned. And you got to meet people and
Yeah. So if you want to do crypto, if you want to invest in somebody's bar, you want to do angel investing, if you're qualified, etc., be my guest. But don't jump to that first. Get all your stuff automated. And at a certain point, the compounding is so insane. You will start to actually earn more from your investments than you will from your income, even if you're making $500K a year.
From the index funds you're talking about, if you're investing in that. What if the market's going down or up? Should you even worry about that? Let's say you put $500,000 in.
Yeah.
It went up 100,000 over a couple of years, but then it went back to the original investment. Should you be like, oh my gosh, I need to take this out?
Do not do that. I'll give you a real example.
I just put 2 years of my money into this and it's still the same amount. I should have just left it in the bank.
No, you shouldn't have left it in the bank. All right, so this happened to me just about 2 weeks ago. So the market went down, and I hardly ever log. I log in about once a month to my investments.
See, like,
And really, you should not be checking your investments.
check every 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Once a month is good, and like, you're not a day trader.
Yeah.
Okay, so I happened to log in, and I saw that in the 11 days of that month, in one of my accounts, I had lost $75,000. Okay, so for everybody listening, how would you react if you lost $75,000 in 11 days?
Most people would be freaked out.
They'd be freaked out. They would pull
Take
their
the money out.
Yeah, which is exactly the opposite of what you should do. So everyone says this common thing and they just roll their eyes. Oh, buy low, sell high. But in reality, they actually buy high and sell low. So you know what I did? I did nothing. I logged in. I felt no emotion. It wasn't like my life is over. It was like watching someone offer me concrete to eat. Like, I felt nothing. I'm like, nah, it's fine, whatever. I just closed the window. The key there is every month, my system is automatically investing. It's called dollar cost averaging. It's just automatically investing. And you should set the same thing up too. You shouldn't be paying attention manually. You shouldn't be sending a check. It just works automatically. And so I knew this month, the market is down. And if you think about any other thing you buy, if the price of toothpaste goes down, you're happy. If the price of milk goes down, you're happy. The only time we get weird is when the price of the market goes down, and then we're like, oh, let me pull all my money out. Bad move. The price went down. If you're young and you have a long time before you need the money, you're getting the market at a discount. You should get excited. You should get excited. So I just said, great, it went down, fine, doesn't bother me. And I just closed the window. And a few days later, my system will just purchase it again. So if it's up, it's down, it doesn't matter in the short term. But over the long term, we know that the market tends to return about 7 to 8% over time.
Yeah.
But it can go up, it can go down. And so you do not want to be paying attention in the short term.
Let's say you've got $500,000 to $1 million extra cash laying around. You've maxed out all your IRAs. You've got 5 to 10 grand a month going to your index funds. You've dabbled in the smaller investments and startups, and you've done it all. Yeah. You've got a little bit in crypto. You've tried everything. What should you do with that extra $1 million a year?
Okay, great question. First off, this is like somebody saying to a fitness instructor, I've done everything. What should I do next? And that, you know what that fitness instructor is going to say? They're going to say, when you say everything, what do you really mean? Like, show me. Are you doing foam rolling? Are you doing this? Are you all balanced? For the person who's doing this, I'm going to give you your answer, but I'm going to first say, are you sure? Have you planned out, so you know that 10 years from now, you're going to buy a house. Do you have a 20% down payment set aside? I do. And I have no plans to buy a house anytime soon, but I have 20% set aside for a house.
For that moment, yeah.
Yeah, for when, so I already plan for what I know is coming, even though I have no interest in it today. What about the first year of your kid's life? Do you have that set aside? What about XYZ? Are you taking care of your parents when they get older? One thing that I really love to do is talk about relationships. So I love to invite my family once a year for a big vacation where we can all stay in a house and there's like a chef and all this stuff, and we can all be there and the kids can be playing. Is that something that's important to you?
That's cool.
Right? So plan for that. Now, if you've done all that stuff, you got your 6-month emergency fund, you've got your investments automated on autopilot, and you still have money left over, you're in an awesome position. And now you can do a couple of things. One, if you want to keep growing that money, you can simply invest it in a non-retirement taxable account. And that money will grow like crazy. If you're putting in 10, 20K a month, that money will turn into massive amounts. And you can, if you guys don't believe me, just go search for compound interest calculator. Bankrate has a really good one, and plug in 20K a month for 10 years. And that's it. Just stop and watch what happens as that money grows.
7 or 8%?
Yeah, at 7% returns, and watch what happens.
Right.
It becomes like a tsunami. You cannot stop it. So that's one. The other thing is, if you want to invest in a little bit of fun stuff, if you're like, hey, I want to take 10% of this and invest in like this crazy investment, my buddy's starting a thing, go ahead. Just be prepared to write it off. Maybe it works, maybe not. And then from there, you should also remember a third thing, and nobody really talks about this. Maybe it's time to increase your quality of life. Maybe instead of staying in the middle back seat, it's time to upgrade to the exit row.
Right. Or business class.
Business class. Yeah. Or maybe it's time to eat at a different restaurant. Maybe it's time to really think about your money dial and say, hey, I always claim that wellness is important, and yet I'm still eating like the same old thing I used to eat 10 years ago. Maybe it's time to upgrade what I eat and where I work out and all that kind of stuff, my gear. You can do that.
Yeah.
You've made it. You already won the basic game. So
Right.
now you get to benefit from it.
What about real estate? Because a lot of people, I hear people that are all in on real estate
Yeah.
investment, or they're kind of like all in on the market.
Yeah, I think that real estate. So a lot of people are going to hate me after I say this. I know you guys have all been told since you were like 2 years old, real estate's the best investment ever. And it turns out that's not really true. A couple of things that might surprise
If you're buying one home,
If you're buying a house and living in it.
if you're buying multiple units or buying multiple homes
Yeah.
and that's your business,
Yeah.
it might be a better investment.
Correct. Let me make the distinction. So most people in America are told that the American life, the American dream is graduate from college, get married, buy a house, white picket fence, 2.5 kids, and you made it. And I think we all just have to look at people who are a little bit older than us to realize that might not be our American dream. We might want to travel more. We might want to work remotely. I mean, here we are in the middle of a weekday, chit-chatting and sharing it with millions of people. This is our dream. So I want to challenge people to really question what you've been taught. That's number one. Number two, most people who buy a house and live in it think that it is the best investment, but most people have never run
Like my
the
piggy
numbers.
bank.
Yeah, they think that. They don't understand that when you spend money on a house, you've incurred tons of phantom costs. You have taxes, you have maintenance, you have all kinds of things that you don't count. And if you actually factor all those numbers in, real estate often, in fact, many times, is not a great investment at all. It's a place to live. And you have these phrases like you're throwing money away on rent. It's not true. Your landlord's making a profit, otherwise they wouldn't do it. That's not true. Your landlord can't charge you whatever they want. They can only charge you what the market will bear.
Yeah.
So if you search my name in real estate, you'll see all the numbers played out. Now, on the other hand, if you are a real estate investor and you're disciplined, that's a different story, and that can be effective.
So a lot of people have a relationship with money based on either what they've been told or what they've experienced in their outer environment, right? So then we gain information from our environment, and the stronger the emotion we feel from experiences in our lives, the more altered we feel inside of us,